Incredible.
Yesterday. So now tomorrow, third straight week of nuke talks with Iran. They named Michael Anton, senior State Department official, to lead the technical team on Iran's nuclear negotiations. How do you feel about where we're at right now? What do your sources tell you? What kind of progress is being made?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, we know a couple of things. One, Iran's not going to dismantle the program as we asked them to do, by a date certain with inspections and verification. Obviously, that's not happening. That's the same thing that Obama did, by the way. When they began negotiations in 2013, they told Iran to dismantle your program, give up.
Yeah, that's the other side of the story that's really funny, is that Donald Trump, who delivered the death blow to Barack Obama's signature foreign policy accomplishment, has now turned around and is trying to do Barack Obama's Iran denuclearization agreement. I fucking love that, dude. That is awesome.
Give up enrichment, give up the centrifuges, give up your ballistic missiles. They balked, and then we accepted civil nuclear power enrichment. They kept their centrifuges and they kept their ballistic missiles. They eventually got real close to a nuclear weapon, as we all know, which is the concern we have today. The Iranians are masters at working these negotiations to their favor. So we have to keep an eye on this, certainly.
This guy has straightforwardly the worst positions on everything, by the way. He's like, I don't know about this Iran denuclearization agreement. Maybe we should just nuke Iran ahead of time.
The administration wants a nuclear program that cannot even come close to weaponization. Mm-hmm. But even if you take away all the enrichment and leave the centrifuges and the ballistic missiles, they can get enriched uranium from many countries. We get it from 4 or 5 different countries, to include Russia. China, Russia, and North Korea all have enriched uranium. Why? Because they all have nuclear weapons, and they're their closest allies. So clandestinely, they can still get enriched uranium. And they keep the centrifuges to spin that and get it to a weaponization grade, and they keep the ballistic missiles so they can deliver it. That's what we have to be very careful of going forward here.
It got to be Americans on the ground watching the dismantling.
Maybe people will yell at me for saying this, but I do think that the region will be way more stable if Iran had fucking nukes. This is not just my take. This is the Mersheimer protocol. He says this as well. I think Jeffrey Sachs might have said this too. It's kind of insane to think that I could get away with saying this shit. I mean, I have before, but like the HasanAbi doctrine remains true. And it's low-key part. It's the only reason why I think this is because Israel has nukes. I feel like if Israel did not have nukes, which they have, and it's too late, and they've had it for a very long time. If Israel did not have nukes, then I would not have this exact same perspective. Do you think nuclear winter will be beneficial for climate change? I mean, as it stands, you either have a fucking nuke or you don't. You know what I mean? If you don't have a nuke, you get walked over. What are nations supposed to do? Don't make me tap the sign, dude. Don't make me tap the fucking sign. There it is. The HasanAbi Doctrine, a guide for nation building. Rule number 1, get nukes. Rule number 2, do not give up the nukes. You know who did rule number 2? You know who violated rule number 2? Ukraine, bitch. That's who violated rule number 2. Ukraine fucked up. And you're over here talking about, oh, dude, countries can't have nukes. What are you talking about? Okay, rule number 3. If you're accused of having nukes, drop everything and immediately find some nukes. Especially if America says you have nukes, you have to find nukes. If you don't have nukes after America says you have nukes, you're fucked. Countries that have gone through this process and did not find nukes. Leadership like Gaddafi. Gaddafi learned the problem with rule number 3. Okay? Saddam Hussein, a different version of that. Both of those guys went out in not so great ways. Okay? Ukraine is a violator of rule number 2. Gave up the fucking nukes. I'm not Mr. Nukes have actually created global stability and global peace, but as it stands, You look at countries that don't have nukes, and you look at countries that do have nukes. Okay? And it kind of feels like countries that don't have nukes are getting dominated by countries that do. When did Ukraine have nukes? I mean, technically it was USSR nukes that were in Ukraine, and they had no way of using them. But it doesn't matter. You should have just, on principle, never given up the nukes. Bro, Soviet soldier literally prevented the nuclear holocaust like it's defo not a force of stability. That's right. You admit the glory of the Soviets. I've never not admitted the glory of the Soviets. What are you talking about? Technically, USSR ceased to exist and they belonged to Ukraine. Yeah, but the launching platform was still in control of Russia. In the control of Russia, so they couldn't technically use it. Yeah, the white fascist South African government denuked South Africa for this reason. They didn't want a black leftist government to have nukes. Why did they want to denuclearize Iran so bad? I'm a Zoomer, so I'm not caught up. I mean, it's because when a country has nukes, they have full-blown autonomy, full-blown sovereignty, and they can get away with being treated differently. They get treated differently than countries that are devoid of nukes. I mean, look at Ukraine. Look at Ukraine. Look at what's happening to Ukraine.
That program in the way Libya did and South Africa did and Ukraine did. And that's just the beginning. I'm not sure the Israelis are going to sit on the side if they think it's a bad deal. General Jack Keane, there's so much going on. The Institute of Study of War helps unwind it on a daily basis, and you're chairman of that. Thanks so much, General. Have a great weekend. So, NATO chief, Mark.
Did you just say Vietnam doesn't have nukes? Yeah, dude. What happened? I mean, you're Vietnamese. You know this. What happened to your people? Exactly. America fucking genocided the Vietnamese population. That's what happens when you don't have nukes. When you don't have nukes, you get fucking genocided so hard that even currently, almost half a century later, okay, you still have disabilities in the upcoming generation, like they're still born with birth defects. Sorry, I saw XQC duking it out in my replies with Mighty Keef. Here it is. It's so funny to always imagine that you wouldn't be in the minds if such a scheme were to be implemented, I said, responding to Asmongold, saying society would instantly and dramatically improve if we took the bottom 5 to 10% of the most R-worded kids out of school and put them in the coal mines instead. Almost all Western cultural problems derive from an adherence to the false god of equity. To which I responded with, it's so funny to always imagine that you wouldn't be in the minds if such a scheme were to be implemented. Okay. To which Mighty Keith responded with, I find it wild. He says horrible things like this about a parent's mentally disabled children, but when people bring up his dead mom, he cries on YouTube about how the world's being mean to him. I don't get it, lol. XU said he isn't referring to mentally disabled children, but actually depicting unintelligent ones. For most people, his opinion about the topic doesn't warrant an ad hominem about his dead relative. Hope this offers some guidance on this topic, says XQC. To which, once again, Mighty Keith's point here isn't that it is appropriate to shit on Asmongold's mother, okay? He's saying, like, if you can understand how inappropriate it is to have someone shit on your mom, which I agree, by the way, it is inappropriate, right? Then, you know, why are you making these fucking broad declarative statements? Like, empathy begets empathy, right? And it's wild because then he says, he specifically said R-worded children, which by definition are mentally disabled kids. You aren't putting your own interpretation on it. I'm using reality. You're putting your own interpretation on it. I'm using reality. Saying the ad hominem on Asmon is bad, but the ad hominem on parents who have disabled kids is okay is hypocritical. Putting actually mentally disabled children in coal mines would, I assume, endanger them. Even Asmon knows this. You are misreading obvious dialogue cues. Okay, what if they're stupid kids? Like, what if they're just not, like, full-blown mentally disabled kids, but what if they're just, like, the bottom 10%? How do we make this assessment on who is the bottom 10%? The entire conversation is fucking idiotic. So don't interpret his actual words he's using as what he means. Assume he means something else. You're an idiot. I assume I mean that however you want. Surely no one still uses derogatory terms in different ways in their literal definition. Brother, what the fuck is happening? The underlying basis for this argument is eugenics, okay? A eugenicist principle that will dictate, like, this is genetic predetermination talk happening on the timeline and getting a shit ton of fucking likes. And you have XQC who under normal circumstances would absolutely fall in the fucking 5 to 10% bottom fucking intelligence quotient, okay? Talking about how, well, actually, you know, maybe this is a good idea. Maybe he put forward this strategy because he truly believes that this would be beneficial for society. It's like, what is going on? What are we doing here? What the fuck is happening? Everyone has lost their goddamn minds, it seems. All it took was for Donald Trump to come out and say some insane nonsense for half of the fucking streamers to be like, yeah, actually, we should be sending people to the fucking coal mines by force if they're too stupid to study. What the fuck? The irony, of course, is that if you don't understand how psychotic, if you take this statement seriously, if you don't understand how psychotic this policy would look like if implemented, you probably are in the fucking 5 to 10% bottom intelligence and you would be sent to the fucking coal mines. That's the irony here. All of the people that are liking that fucking tweet would be in the coal mines. It's the same idiotic fantasy of a guy with a fucking busted down 1994 Honda Civic thinking that if there was an anarcho-capitalist dystopian future, that they would somehow magically become a factory owner and enslave the rest of the population. Brother, you are basically servile right now. Why the fuck do you think if the systems that have kept you alive in spite of the best interest of your bosses and the people that dominate society right now, if they were left unchecked, why the fuck do you think you would magically become the factory owner? You would be a slave. Actually, you would probably not even make it to the slave class. You would just be melted for biomatter. This is something that I don't understand. Americans are so oblivious to class consciousness. They're so far removed from understanding their fucking class position that they literally fantasize about one day being the foreman of the factory in an anarcho-capitalist dystopia. Yeah, dude, it was the rules that was actually stopping you from achieving this unlimited success that you will get. Meanwhile, you're trying to Sigma grind set your way out of your shitty dead-end fucking job as you are being melted down to your fucking core. If you can't make it within the confines where these regulatory agencies have basically prevented your bosses from fucking you to death, then how the fuck do you think you're going to make it when there's no rules? They're just going to literally force you into the salt mine, and once you are discarded like an old horse with a severe injury, you're going to be sent to the fucking glue factory. Why are you so upset? Because stupidity is not only offensive, but it's incredibly fucking frustrating. This level of stupidity and the way and the oblivious nature of Americans frustrates me to no end. That's what pisses me off. This is my point. This is the point that, I mean, it's just, how are you not mad is the question. You got an insane eugenics policy getting a shit ton of likes on Twitter, okay, by people who would be sent to the fucking mines. Like, people that are liking this are going to the mines, okay, if implemented, if this policy is implemented. I don't want this policy to be implemented. I don't even think Asmongold was being serious here. He's just fucking trying to be bold, okay? He's just trying to be bold and trying to get these fucking likes and trying to be talked about. And he succeeded, right? But like, and XUC is joining in on the conversation because he wants to present himself as a centrist as well, okay? A center-right figure himself. Oh, he will say it was a joke and Hasan crashed out about it. I mean, the irony is I also joked. But what I'm crashing out about is the stupidity of other people that know better trying to be like, well, actually, I'm going to defend this policy on its virtues alone. Like, that's what's more frustrating to me. Because, like, yeah, I saw this take from Asmongold and I was like, this is ridiculous. It's sad that there's so many people that liked it. not realizing that they would also be victim to this fucking policy, Asmongold included. I made a joke about it. I said, it's so funny to always imagine that you wouldn't be in the mines if such a scheme were to be implemented. And then Mighty Keith said, I find it wild he says horrible things like this about a parent's mentally disabled children, but when people bring up his dead mom, he cries on YouTube about how the world's being mean to him. I don't get it. Saying like, you are so unempathetic, but you have the capacity to demonstrate empathy when someone is attacking you in an unempathetic fashion. This tweet has 46K likes in X's community. Juicers see this? Yeah, I brought this up the other day. Yes, XQC's audience is also aware of his ways, you know? The silliest point of contention here is always to take like... The silliest thing here is always whenever, you know, centrism fans and centrism understanders will take the argument at face value, okay? They will never scratch the surface where they'll just be like, yeah, dude, this is what actually is happening here, you know? Like, remember, the conversation started with me saying, don't ever let anyone tell you your voices don't matter, right? There's real discontent towards Elon Musk. In some instances, that discontent is so vast and so insurmountable that it leads to literal vandalism, okay? Acts of vandalism. This isn't to say that acts of vandalism are good, okay? I'm not saying that. I have a platform. I can't say that, regardless of what I may actually think, okay? Having said that, like, this isn't even about the fucking cars burning on fire anyway. I'm literally talking about the ways in which the discontent towards Elon Musk has blown up, so much so that he is basically saying he's going to fucking leave. But then people turn around and go, no, he's leaving because they're lighting Teslas on fire. As in, they're taking Elon's reaction, which he hasn't even delivered himself personally, at face value. They're imagining an alternative that Elon is actually quitting because people are lighting the cars on fire, not realizing that people are lighting the cars on fire because of how fucking little they want to do with Elon Musk due to his actions with his actions inside the federal agencies. Okay? And then the centrism defenders look to that argument and go, yeah, he's right. It is actually because the cars are being lit on fire. And Hasan is saying it's good to light the cars on fire. I never said that. Why did you choose the QRT Hasan on some shit? He's objectively correct on his other 1,000 actual moronic things he's posted, bro. Defend it. Violence equals voice. Look who's doing the defending now. It's so annoying whenever people take this like unnuanced position in an effort to defend right-wing attitudes and right-wing ideology. Okay? It's so goddamn frustrating when people will just look to this and go, well, you know, he's making a good point here. Like, the conversation has shifted from the point that I was making, which is that there is very real discontent. There is very real discontent towards Elon Musk. And that discontent is so vast and so powerful that it even fucking erupts in acts of vandalism against property. It has also erupted in the way it also has turned into people not purchasing Tesla vehicles in general. Okay? Anyway, this conversation is still continuing, by the way. This isn't an argument. You're telling me I'm supposed to just assume someone means something other than what they said. There wasn't even any context that could allude to him meaning what you're saying. You just pulled it out of your ass to defend someone who has the same ideals. I don't understand. Why is XT addressed as a relevant interlocutor? Because whether we agree to it or not, the reality of the matter is people that put forth these incredibly silly, incredibly dumb positions are actually getting a lot of prominence because other people are even dumber than they are. Okay? I don't even personally think that XQC is authentic in these authentic as to why he's arguing on these positions. Like, I don't think he's authentically arguing for this shit. I think he's doing it specifically for clout purposes. He sees Asmongold's He sees Asmongold's metrics and he's like, well, I want a piece of that. Obviously, there's a lot of dumb fucks who will eat up whatever garbage I put their way if I were to assume a centrist, enlightened centrist right-wing position. This isn't fucking new. Okay? It's not new. This is how Dave Rubin became a right-wing figure. This is how Tim Pool started off as a right-wing figure. So many right-wing commentators. Jordan Peterson did this as well. Why isn't it relevant if they actually believe it or not? They're spreading Nazi rhetoric and their audience genuinely believes it. Dog, I'm not saying this to defend XUC. I'm saying that, why can't people comprehend? When people are grifting to the right, it doesn't matter if they're grifting or if they're genuine. What matters is their output. Okay? But the very fact that they're grifting on top of that makes it even more indecent. My point is not deep down inside, he has like a real opinion that is born out of empathy. I'm also saying that it's worse because it doesn't matter what he fucking truly believes. He's just doing it for clout. I always thought XU was pretty right-wing. Yeah, you were unfamiliar with his commentary then, because only a couple years prior, before he like did the Gamba stuff, he used to be a very empathetic person. Like, he wasn't the most well-read, but he you know, his moral guidance was born out of being nice to people. If you hear him talk about like not saying the R word, you know, and shit like that, you can understand it. It sounds stupid and it sounds silly, but I think it's instructive about a person's point of view, about what their guiding, motivating principles are. I mean, it's been a long time at this point. He's been getting yelled at by other Twitch communities recently, so we hit the fuck Hasan button, that's all. Yeah, but it doesn't even fucking work now, because that just causes resentment from his audience that understands, to this day, at least right now, they understand who the real villain of society is. They see Donald Trump as the real villain of society. So, and they see Elon Musk as the real villain of society, because they are. So when XQC says fuck Hasan, they don't read that as like, yeah, you know what, Hasan's again, Hasan is doing it again. He's just being a fucking moron. Oh, fuck that guy. They go, you're being a fucking moron for saying fuck Hasan in this process because we agree with him. The fuck Hasan button only works in times when the overwhelming majority of the population can't see that the institutions are causing them direct harm. Anyway, when did it become meta to hate on you? It took many, many years to get to this point, but it ultimately doesn't mean anything either. It's just a meta for like some communities. It's the meta for drama slop tubers. It's the meta for a lot of like these centrist apolitical types. But it's not necessarily the meta across the board. Obviously, if that was the case, I wouldn't have as vast an audience as I do currently. And the meta has changed anyway. For the uneducated and the young, I am seen as like a beacon of woke. You know, I'm seen as like the arbiter of all things woke. And from the liberal side, I'm seen as the arbiter of all things that demonstrate their moral depravity, because there is a different alternative out there and they don't want to abide by that, and they want to maintain the current the current systems in spite of how deeply unpopular that maintenance looks like for the average person, so much so that they went and fucking voted for Donald Trump. That's it. It was around the Tate time. That's when being compared to you was a compliment to, I don't know about this Hasan guy. Yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. But the fuck Hasan meta has kind of the fuck Hasan exoram doesn't work as it once did. I think the grace you give the right-wing men that stream stands opposed to what I've seen from the women on the left saying. Just a pattern I've noticed. I know you're great at outreach, but no need to defend the lost. They yearn to wander. I don't just give grace to right-wing men that stream. I give grace to everyone. And that is precisely the reason why I've been able to create a community of like-minded individuals that have had their minds changed. This is a big part of what I believe in.
Personal property.
What is
Your
this?
Land